I like to be punctual. Thank you all for coming tonight, and I feel kind of awkward. I've got my back to the audience because we're usually presenting this way, but my name is Rick Green. I'm the Development Services Director for the City of West Palm Beach. I've got some of my staff that are helping folks outside. I'll also mention that across the hallway in what we call the Flagler Gallery, the meeting will be broadcast in there as well on a big screen, so if you want to have a little bit more room, you can go over there. Certainly if you want to speak, you can walk over, but it's a little bit, I won't say more comfortable, but we have additional space across the hallway if anybody wants to do that. A couple things. I'm going to do a quick presentation to talk about what we're doing here. I'm going to make it very clear that we are not making any recommendations tonight. I know there was an article about Related's desire to build a building. They have not formally submitted anything to the city yesterday. Part of what we like to do is get feedback from the residents. So that's what we're here to do today. This will be the first of several meetings. So this is not the lone meeting. I would ask, as the mayor does at every city commission meeting, let's please keep this meeting civil. No name calling, yelling. Again, nothing is being proposed tonight that's going to move forward immediately. We are here solely to get your input to find out if there are things you like or you do not like about the proposal that we are considering. So with that, and again, I'll apologize having my back to you, but I'll try to do it at an angle. So first, what I thought I would do is start with a little bit of a history. You'll hear the term CMUD, and really what that stands for is the Currie Mixed Use District. So we have three mixed use districts in the city right now. We have the Broadway Mixed Use District, which, as the name implies, runs, it's the red area here, runs along the entire Broadway corridor. We have the Northwood District reflected in the green color here, which is a several block area on either side of Northwood Road. And then lastly, we have the Currie Mixed Use District, which is the area outlined here in blue. And the purpose of the Mixed Use District is to treat those areas a little different than your conventional planning areas that have specific zoning code standards. We try to have a mixture of uses, both residential, commercial, et cetera. So these are the three that we have in place right now. So the CMUD area, the Currie Mixed Use area, dating back to 2014, and some of you may have been a part of that, we had a 7-day visioning session between March 1st and 7th back in 2014. And like we're doing tonight, we received input from a lot of the residents. We talked about what they wanted to see. And as a result of those discussions, several months later, on September 29th and November 10th of 2014, the City Commission approved not only a comprehensive plan amendment, which is the master plan that guides the build-out of the city, but also text amendments to the zoning and land development regulations. That's a fancy word for our zoning code. And what the CMUD revisions that took place back in 2014 did was allowed areas that had base heights of 3 to 8 stories to increase those heights up to 15 stories, or a total of 195 feet in height. And as part of the comprehensive plan amendment, we identified that we could build up to 4,065 residential units and 2.3 million square feet of retail or commercial uses within the area you see here outlined in yellow. So fast forward 6 years, you see on the left what the CMUD area looked at. Okay. What you see on the left is what the CMUD area looked like in October 2014 as we were adopting these new changes. There was a lot of land acquisition from the developer Jeff Green, who bought a lot of property within this area. And then to the right, you see just roughly 6 years later, there was very little change. So that's what prompted our desire to make changes to the CMUD area. So what we did were a series of new categories, if you will. So you see the CMUD area here reflected in the various colors. So we had an edge district which allowed up to 60 feet in height, which is really the north end of the CMUD district. We had a series of transition districts reflected in the blue, which allowed up to 163 feet in height. We had the Core 2 area reflected in the red color, which allowed up to 202 feet in height. a Core 1 area, which allowed up to 306 feet in height, and then lastly, a Core 1A area, which allowed up to 350 feet in height. Now, developer does not get that height automatically. So if you look at, as an example, the Core 2 area, there's a base height of 111 feet. So a developer starts at that level. We met with a lot of the residents and we said, what are the big needs within the CMUD district? So we came up with a series of incentives, if you will, that are listed here on the right. I won't go through these now, but let's say, for instance, a developer decides as part of his building to build a food store. Well, that food store would grant him the ability to get additional height. Not necessarily the full height he's seeking, but we had height numbers for each of the various incentives based on what we thought were the highest priority. One that we are working on right now is the extension of Northwood Road from the CMUD district here, connecting to what we call the anchor site at the west end of Northwood Road. So that would run, and then we would cross Dixie Highway at this point and tie into the new entrance to Currie Park. If the developer who owns these two buildings in purple, which happens to be Jeff Green, if he funds those improvements, we are working to get those constructed now, he would be granted additional height. So that's kind of how the process works. You start with a base height, and you can see them on each of the different colors, and then you could get up to the additional maximum height provided that these incentives are met. So then we thought, well, should we take this same concept and extend it a little further? So the area reflected in yellow and all of the area you see to the north outlined in red is the boundary of what we call our community redevelopment area. So this is an area where redevelopment takes place, the money gets pumped back into this area, and the beauty of a CRA area is that what a resident or what a commercial use would pay in the form of county taxes remains with the city. So we are simply following that area outlined in yellow. Again, this is the boundary of our existing CMUD community redevelopment area.
Could you just define what that map, what those roads are?
I'm going to get into that in more detail in a minute.
Are these slides going to be on the website someplace?
I should mention too, yes, if you wanted to, please sign in, and then if you want either the PowerPoint, we can either put it on the website or we can email it to you, but please sign in so as we have subsequent meetings, we make sure we contact everybody. For tonight's meeting, anybody that was in 500 feet of the yellow got a notice, so hopefully everybody in the room got one tonight. But again, the concept of building 4,000 residential units and 2.3 million square feet, we don't anticipate that much development is going to happen in the CMUD area to the north. So if we extend this property to include the yellow area, that would simply be contained within the 4,000 residential units and 2.3 million square feet of retail commercial that has already been adopted by the city and the state. So we're not proposing to add any more new development. It would be included within what was approved by the CMUD district.
Sorry, you're saying that there was already approved new development within that extended area in the yellow?
Let me finish my presentation and then we'll go back to questions, but to answer that, no, it's a cap, if you will, a maximum amount of development that could be built. Just like we have a maximum amount of development that could be built downtown, it's the same concept here. So we can't build more than 4,000 residential units and 2.3 million square feet. That's the maximum that could be built. If we include the yellow, it would be contained within that same maximum amount that's been approved by the City Commission and the state.
Okay, but I'm sorry, but when you say it's been approved, it was approved previously, so there is building that is anticipated to happen in this district that isn't there yet.
Correct.
It's been approved, and when was that approved?
That was approved, I believe, in August of last year.
Okay, well, I'm a resident in that area
All right,
currently, and I.
ma'am, let me finish my presentation if I could, please. All right, well, the purpose of this is to get input from the residents like yourself, but please let me provide the overview so everybody can understand what led to where we are now. So with regard to the CMUD area, again, the existing boundary is here, the red line. There was a discussion by Temple Israel to seek more height. So as part of the discussions that took place back last summer for the CMUD district, we indicated that we would come back and continue those discussions. So while this is not part of the extended area, it's already within the approved area. It's something that we are going to discuss further. What I call Block A, which is this block, contains the Flagler Point condominium. I'm sure many here are part of that community. Block B, the block to the north, includes Villa Delago project, the Majestic Towers building, and then a mixture of residential and offices. Block C contains the offices and then the Slade condominium. Block D includes the Good Samaritan vacant parcel parking area, which is right here. And then just to the east of that, the Flagler Waterview building at 1515. So we've done an analysis of every one of these lots in terms of the size, what's on there today, and we use this to conduct the analysis that we'll be doing on a go-forward basis for the potential extension of the CMUD South area. Now, the other important point to mention is that we have a concept in our zoning code called a planned development. So when a larger project comes in, it can be approved as a planned development. So those planned developments go through a process whereby they get reviewed by our planning board and ultimately by the city commission. So the existing planned developments that we have today, we are not proposing to change the zoning. So in this CMUD South area, approximately half of the land within that area I just showed in yellow was approved a while back as a planned development. We are not proposing to change anything within the existing planned development. We're going to be focusing on the areas outside of that planned development. So just to recap, Flagler Point was approved as a professional office residential planned development. We are not proposing to change anything on that site. The Villa Delago and Majestic Towers complementary buildings were also approved as planned developments. We're not proposing to change the zoning on that property. You have the Slade condominium approved as a residential planned development. We are not proposing to change the zoning on that property. And then you've got the Flagler Waterview building approved as a professional office residential planned development. Again, we're not proposing to change the zoning on that property. And then lastly, the Good Samaritan community service plan development. While most of that is outside of the CRA boundary, as I mentioned earlier, there's a small strip inside this parcel number 1 that was approved as a part of the plan development. So all of these areas outlined in yellow and all of the areas outlined in yellow were approved as plan developments. We're not proposing to change any of that. So if you follow the red line of the CMUD South boundary beginning here and extending and going around toward the existing CMUD, you can see that it's approximately half of the land. And then, of course, you've got some general commercial along Dixie Highway that we're going to be looking at as well. So this is what our zoning map looks like. You'll see the term professional office residential. Most of that is what you see in the orange color. You have the general commercial, which are really the commercial uses along Dixie Highway. And then lastly, the planned development. So when you phase the planned developments in, you'll see that the majority of those we are not proposing to touch. And again, they would remain as planned developments, and we're not proposing to change the zoning.
So that little yellow, tiny, little.
I'll talk about that in a minute. Let me get through this, please. So the professional office residential, just so you understand the zoning, right now under our zoning code, that allows a maximum height of 40 feet. A developer can go taller. He can go 2 feet higher for every 1 foot of setback that he has on his setback requirements. The maximum floor area ratio, and that's a planning term, which is basically your building square footage divided by your land area. So if you have a 100,000 square foot building on a 50,000 square foot piece of property, that would be an FAR of 2. So under the current code right now, an individual lot has an FAR of 0.5. The planned development has an FAR of 0.75. And the maximum density in the professional office residential zoning category is 14 units to the acre. So for every acre a developer owns, he could build 14 units. So what we are looking at here is you see the Flagler Point planned developments, 8 and 9-story buildings, Villa Delago at 11 stories, Majestic Towers at 12, the Slade Building at 14, and the 1515 Flagler Waterview at 9 stories. So the areas really that we are looking at as part of the discussion today, again, we're not proposing to change the zoning on any of these properties that you see listed here. So what we are looking at is the Temple Israel site that lies within the current CMUD regulations that was approved last summer. Right now, under the existing CMUD regulations that they have approved, they could build a building approximately 15 to 19 stories. You have the property at 1701-717. That is the property that the related group owns, that they are interested in doing a partnership with the Ritz-Carlton. Again, nothing has been submitted to the city, so we have not seen any plans up to this date. We saw there was an article a couple weeks ago. You've got the property immediately west of there, which is professional office, residential, and general commercial. And then you've got the other properties along Dixie Highway. You have the one piece down here that the woman was asking about, the office building. Again, that is not contained as a planned development, so that's a standalone that we would also look at the zoning on that property. I will say that that property is so small, I can't imagine the likelihood of building a tall building on that site is almost impossible, given the size of that building, of that lot.
So all of your purple boxes there are 15 to 19
Ju-
stories?
No, just this one to the north is what's approved now under the existing CMUD regulations. So the areas that we're going to focus on and what staff has been looking at, so this area that you see in blue, this is in the existing approved CMUD regulations. Again, the dividing line is right here. This is where the CMUD ends. So this is our transition district in blue, which again starts at a lower base height, allows a developer to go up to a maximum of 163 feet, presuming he meets those incentives that we have laid out. There is a core district, core 2 district, which allows up to 202 feet in height. Then there's the core 1, which allows 306 feet in height. So the Temple Israel site at 1901 North Flagler has a current zoning today of a core 2, which allows up to 202 feet in height. And then based on the floor plate, whether they have a 10-foot floor-to-ceiling height or a 13-foot floor-to-ceiling height, we kind of use those ranges to estimate. They could build somewhere between 15 and 19 stories. They are desirous of rezoning to the yellow, the 306 feet. The second one that we'll talk about, and then immediately south of there, again, Flagler Point, you've got 8 and 9-story buildings that are approximately 100 feet and 112 feet in height. The next building we'll talk about is the one acquired by the related group. This is where they want to do the partnership with the Ritz-Carlton. Under the existing code today, under the POR, they could build 14 units to the acre, which would allow them 34 units, which they've said is not sufficient for what they would like to do. If they were to rezone to a higher density, in our case, the highest you could get in the city is a multifamily 32, and as the name implies, that's 32 units to the acre, then they could build 80 units. And then again, under the CMUD regulations, we process and regulate the developments based on height, and there is no density limitation. So we're not penalizing somebody if they want to do a larger unit or a smaller unit. And then, of course, you've got all of the remaining general commercial uses along Dixie Highway and the professional office uses that are also contained within the area between Dixie and the areas you see outlined in the color there. So really, as I'm wrapping up, the 4 questions that we've been focusing on is the zoning for Temple Israel. Again, today, under the existing approved code approved by the city, they have a Core 2 zoning designation, which allows 202 feet. They are desirous of being rezoned to a Core 1, which would allow 306 feet. Our intention is to leave the current plan developments alone. So The Slade, Majestic Towers, Flagler Point, we are not proposing to change any of the zoning there. We have to discuss the zoning for the 1701, 717 North Flagler site. That's reflected in the orange striped color there. And then lastly, the general commercial uses that are reflected along Dixie Highway with the related POR properties. So I'll eventually put it back on this slide because this is what we, the staff, would like to focus on. So the tentative schedule, again, we don't have a definitive schedule yet, but certainly this is the kickoff meeting that we'd like to have. We're calling this the Community Outreach Workshop. We will possibly have a second workshop meeting to flush out some of the ideas we hear tonight. We'll eventually have a Mayor Commission workshop. We may flip these two, I'm not sure yet. But we'll have another meeting with the commission to discuss what we hear from you both tonight and at subsequent workshops. Ultimately, whatever change we make has to come back to this room with our planning board. This is an advisory body of 7 people who sit here. They hear testimony from the staff and the public, and they make a recommendation to the city commission. And then ultimately, we'll have to bring all of this back to the city commission for a first and second reading. And then again, we will have to submit all of this to the state of Florida. There's an organization called the Department of Economic Opportunity. They have to approve all of our land use plan changes. So we expect all of this to be done and resolved, if we stay on schedule, sometime toward the latter part of this year. So again, we want to get your input first. This is not something we're rushing to do, but we will expedite this the best we can. So at this point, we can open it up for public comment. If you'd like to come to either podium, we can do that. Alex, let me introduce Alex Hansen as our comprehensive planner. We're all here to take notes and see if we can address any of your other comments. Linda Louie, Linda, if you raise your hand, she is our senior planner who will be taking a lead on this project. And I know Angela is around. Where's Angela? Okay, but Angela is our planning and zoning administrator, and she'll be involved in this as well. So with that, we're going to try to limit, given the number of people, we're going to try to limit, like the city commission meeting, limits your comments to 3 minutes. Certainly, if you hear a comment that you've already heard, don't feel obligated you have to repeat it, because we'll be taking notes on all the comments that we get tonight. So with that, I'll welcome our first speaker if somebody wants to come up and speak.
I just have a question. From all my years of reading about planning deliberations for development in downtown West Palm, I've seen a reference to an overall scope of having slightly lower height along the waterfront and then increasing height for buildings a little bit further west, either within 1 to 2 or 3 blocks. There may have been exceptions to that, but I've seen reference to that many times over many years. And with reference to the Ritz-Carlton prospective plans, because I know nothing has been proposed officially yet, it seems that a height of 27 floors or something like that is quite a bit above neighboring buildings. And looking at your CMUD plans, I'm just wondering how you came to the decision to incorporate, and not for this particular proposal because it hasn't been made yet, but to have a higher height on those parcels closer to the water.
Next, again, feel free to come up, and I would ask if you could, when you come to the podium, please identify who you are and where you live so we kind of have an idea, but that's all right, sir.
My name is Dr. Richard Schwartz.
Okay.
I live in Delago, and I've had a medical office at catty-corner to Good Samaritan Hospital for 40 years, so
Okay.
I'm very familiar with the area.
Thank you.
Come up.
Take this mask off?
Yeah.
Concerning the extension for the CMUD, do I need to speak in this?
Speak into the mic, so this being televised.
Okay, I'm a resident of 1551 North Flagler, and at the Slade, there's a small law office at 1525 North Flagler, and it's a small parcel of property. What is the current zoning today, and how does the extension, CMUD extension, expand that zoning? Just a question.
Okay.
2 questions. Thank you.
Gerard Zubka, Villa Delago. I don't understand why we're even talking about an extension to the south. We haven't done any building on the regular CMUD. There's a lot of room with a lot of ideas for bigger towers up there. We're already established as residents with residential towers in this southern area with a very specific height. And I don't see any need for going higher until we've filled up that whole area north of us.
Just to answer the gentleman's question, the zoning right here that he was referencing, the office is professional office residential.
There's not a planned change of that residential or that office building to be residential?
Other than what we're talking about tonight, no.
That's what's confusing.
Our understanding was that the new zoning was going to incorporate Currie Street. You're telling us it's not.
If we move forward with the rezoning, again, it's everything within the dashed line that you see here. Okay, well, that's what we want to hear tonight.
Hi, my name is Mark Barbie. I'm sorry, we need you to speak into the mic. Hi, my name is Mark Barbie, and I'm a resident of Flagler Point. And I want to kind of resist the idea of moving the CMUD district down south. As the gentleman said just a second ago, there's a whole lot of land that hasn't been built already. And I think that if you look at the scale of the buildings that are in the areas along Flagler Point, and especially Flagler Point where I live, the scale that is being presented or proposed is way too tall. I built a little model because I always wanted to be a model, and if I'm the 297-foot building that was described,
Sir, if you're gonna talk, you gotta get in the mic.
if I'm the It's on. If I'm the 297-foot building that was described last Monday, yeah, I'm 6 feet tall, so each 2 feet of me is 100 foot of building, and I would be the Ritz-Carlton building. This is Flagler Point, and Flagler Point, or excuse me, the Ritz-Carlton doesn't really sit on a city block. It's kind of just separated only by a little alleyway that is, not even the size of a block. So you can see the scale is just out of control. And if you think about shadow studies, which I hope we get to some point in time, if the sun's over here, as it is during the winter, approximately 70 to 80% of our central pool area and courtyard area will be covered from 11 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. And I think that's a problem.
My name is Jerry Harrington. I live at the Slade Building, 5051 North Flagler. Yeah, it seems to me there seems to be no rational purpose to extend the zoning change to Currie Street because there's only that one little office building. If they put up a high-rise there, 3/4 of the Slade will be blocked from their intercoastal view, and it'll be really condensed. So it seems to me that it makes no sense in public interest to extend the zoning to Currie Street. I have no opinion on the Ritz-Carlton, but in terms of the Slade and the Currie, there's something that doesn't make sense, whoever tried to extend to Currie Street.
Hi, Tim Anderson, 1551 Flagler. A couple related questions here. The first question we asked before the briefing began was, will these slides be available on a website? I think the answer was possibly, maybe, we might email them to you. Is there an answer?
Yes.
Will that be, when will that be?
We'll get with our person as soon as we can download it, hopefully within the next day or two.
Within the next day or two, okay. Second question was, at the beginning of your remarks, you said this is the first of multiple public workshops. I think the slide you showed on slide 15 said possibility of a second public workshop. Is that worked out yet? Is this the only workshop? I mean, the larger question is the opportunities for public
Yeah,
engagement.
as I indicated as part of my presentation, this will not be the only meeting. We will have a second workshop, and then we'll have another one with the city commission, probably in the form of a mayor commission workshop. Once we go through the public hearing process, we have to meet with the planning board, so that'll be yet another public hearing, and then we have 2 more hearings with the city commission. So minimum is probably going to be at least 5 or 6.
Great.
If I counted that
Okay,
correctly.
thanks. Third, I'm all in favor of development as long as it's, all the different factors are taken into account. I drove across the bridge today coming into West Palm from Palm Beach, right, turning by one watermark. There was about a half a mile backup because of the bridge going up at 11 o'clock in the morning with the current development as it is. Obviously, once the Jeff Green buildings are completed on Quadrille and other developments, I mean, traffic's only going to go up. So my question is there a larger macro plan for West Palm development writ large into which this latest development concept fits, and what is that plan? Or where is it on the website?
That's really our comprehensive plan, and Alex, is that on our website now, the comp plan?
Yes.
Yeah, so we can speak separately, and I can kind of direct you how to get there, but if you go to the website, WPB.org, go to Development Services, our department, go to Planning, there's a trail where you can get to the comprehensive plan, and that's the master build-out plan for the whole city.
Okay, dynamite. And then final question, regarding there's been some discussion of a pier being built into the intercoastal at 15th and Flagler. We've heard 100 feet, 300 feet. Is that part of the CMUD expansion zone? Is that within existing zoning?
I don't know anything about that, so I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Beverly Bernstein, and I live at Flagler Point. I moved here last year from Boynton Beach to Flagler Point specifically for the view. I'm on the south side of that building, and I will be completely blocked from the view. I sold my house in Boynton Beach to live here for the various reasons why other people do, for the water, for the being close in a city-like atmosphere without it being city-ish, without it being like Miami or Fort Lauderdale or Manhattan. And I vehemently oppose the rezoning of that building. I don't want to look at an alley. I mean, I think the model that the gentleman had was a perfect example of what it will look like. And we haven't even talked about the right to see the sky, the noise, the hazardous traffic that will encompass all of that, and how long it's going to take. At the meeting that the other night at the Slade, when they gave a presentation of the Ritz-Carlton, they said they were going to start the first quarter. There was going to be 22 stories high, and like it was a done deal already, and which is misrepresenting. So I would like it on the record that I'm against changing it. So thank you for your time.
I Patrick McGinney, and live at what you have listed as Majestic Towers, but it's Villa Lofts, but it's Villa Delago. And this project that is being zoned, I think the thing I've heard that I really agree with is, why is all this other development already approved and none of the development has happened? Why are we adding another area? The developers have lots of space up there to develop and build tall buildings. If you look at the architectural integrity, I mean, it's 12-story, 11-story buildings. Then all of a sudden, a 27-story building? It makes no sense. It makes no sense, and it blocks our view. It blocks the Flagler Point's view, and it blocks the views next door. Why is it even being considered? when there's all this other development? I think that's the biggest argument we all have. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Virginia. I live at the Slade. I'm an original owner. I have two questions. First, for those of us who live at the Slade and in that area, we know that the side streets are extremely dangerous for pedestrians, and there's a lot of cars coming through that area as cut-throughs to Flagler Drive, whether it's on 15th Street, LA Kersey, Lakeside Street. So that's a very dangerous aspect. I'm just wondering, for as far as infrastructure goes and developing the roads, how you're going to accommodate that. In addition, the streets are so tight, 2 cars cannot go side by side if there's parking on both sides of the street, which there are. So that's also very dangerous. And for those of us with animals or even enjoy Flagler Drive, if you've ever tried to cross the street there at the traffic stop, no one stops at the crosswalk. It's incredibly dangerous. People go too fast. So there has to be a plan for you all to control the amount of traffic, the speed, and the density of the streets on that. Also, if we do get extended into this this new zone, which we're not even in the same zip code, I know that's nitpicking, but what will you do, what will that do to our taxes? Will there be a special assessment on all this new development that's coming into the area? Thank you.
I am a resident of 1617 North Flagler, and I just moved out here last year. And the reason I get my condo because of the view. So when I heard about the project, I have 2 concerns. My personal concern is it's going to block my view, so I don't have the beautiful water view in the morning to sip my coffee with. And the second thing, every morning I took a walk along the bay, and then I keep thinking about the 2 building is going to be right there, and I'm thinking about, we all have the building in conformity with the height, and now suddenly we have something, it's just stick up like this. Don't you think it's going to be an eyesore later if we talk about the beauty of our community? And then another thing, I thought, we can lower the new building, but we cannot make the old building higher. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ann Iliensky, and I'm at Villa Delago as of a few weeks, and I'm very disappointed to hear what's come forward. That was one of my questions. Our zoning's not changing. Their zoning is. How do you, why is that fair? You're asking us to restrict and lower our property values so somebody can come in and build higher and up their property values. Are you going to give us a tax deduction? Are you going to give us the money that our condominiums are not worth anymore with a big tower sitting next to us? That was one of my questions. The other thing I wanted to say was my father was the mayor of Palm Beach for 10, 14 years. He spent 10 years on the council. He was president of the council for another 10 years. He spent his life trying to save the integrity of Palm Beach. And because he did that, and there isn't rezoning every 5 or 10 years, Palm Beach is one of the most beautiful places and everybody wants to live there. Where is our integrity? Where is West Palm Beach's sense of community? That's what I want to know.
You come in? Just quickly, I heard Mr. Kimmel at a lecture about 3 weeks ago, and Steve Ross, that's related. And I lived in New York City. I mean, I know New York. And he, as far as I'm concerned, is trying to make West Palm Beach like New York City, okay? I mean, it's off the charts. He's taking over he has not only there on Flagler, forget about it. He's inside, he's taking over the whole place. Good luck.
My name is Alfonso Castillo, and I'm the president of the Slade Homeowners Association. And I have received a lot of concerns and complaints. I think this extension of the CMOD needs to look all the master plan. What are the services that we are going to require? From water to, just to mention the chronic flooding that we have in Flagler Drive. But there is no master plan to deal with those services that all these people will demand. I definitely believe that this extension of the CMOD is not something that is going to solve the issues that we have. And as many of the people have said here, our property values are going to decrease. And there is no master plan for these services to come in and solve the issues that we have as a community. So we will appreciate indeed if you take a detailed step instead of just a blanket extension of the CMOD. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Kaiser from the Slade. I just have a question about, on Currie Drive, just the little bump out that you've included in that. My question is, when you stated that that's such a small property, it would never be built up anyway, then I'm questioning why that would even be included in the possibility of rezoning.
I'm going to follow up on that point and also other points that have been made. I'm Dana Fleischman, also at the Slade, an original owner as well in 2005. And like many people here, I'm sure I bought it for the view, and not only from my apartment specifically, which I have a great view, and I kind of think it may not be affected by what's happening, but also the view from the pool, which we have too.
We just want to get it on.
Sorry, yeah, I'm not 6 feet. So there is a pool, and that little office building that I think you mentioned was too small to really build on. I believe, as someone mentioned here, seems to have applied for a space or something, or to build a dock, so something is going on. And I have seen very small buildings being built upon. If they go anywhere above, I believe, the 5th floor, which I understand they're approved for 4 floors right now. If they go above that pool that we all love at the Slade is destroyed. That's what many of us came for, at least I did. The infinity pool, the views, the air. It means something, and if this goes forward, obviously, it would be a huge detriment to our property values, despite what the Ritz-Carlton and others seem to believe, that it'll enhance it somehow. And I guess, for whatever it's worth, I vehemently object to this. And I knew nothing about it when you said it was approved in August 2021. Never heard about this.
Hello, neighbors. My name is Brooke Muller. I live at the Slade. I have a feeling that our mayor or any of the commissioners do not live in any of these affected buildings. Our building in particular has been paying property taxes to the city, and happy to do so since it went up in 2006, which has helped with all of the other issues that the city addresses. When we had a meeting with the folks at Related on Monday, they had said that there would be a 45-foot setback from Flagler for the smaller part of the building. 45 feet is my living room and dining room. It's nowhere near enough. In addition to what everybody else has said regarding our property values decreasing, as much as it sounds sexy to have the Ritz-Carlton in our neighborhood, my recommendation is that these builders, with their deep pockets, build up Dixie and help the homeless people who are all over the neighborhood, and there before the grace of God go I. I think we need some help for those people, and also be concerned about the traffic, the noise, the debris, and all that goes with 2.5 years at least of building. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bethany Garthwaite. I live at Flagler Point. I just had a clarification question. So I know that you mentioned the 34 units now that's approved, and then there's a conversation of 80 units. Is that an increase of height that we don't know about? So how does that affect the actual height of the building, if at all?
So just to clarify, this is not something that has already been approved. The point that was being made was that, and I don't think this is the right slide. The point that was being made is that's what the current zoning is today, professional office residential. Under the POR, you can get 14 units to the acre. So if that site were to be developed, they could get a maximum of 34 units. This is it here, 13, I'm sorry. If they chose, so they could get a maximum based on the acreage. If you divide 34 units by 14, you get the approximate acreage of that site. They could do 34 units. If they were to rezone it to a multifamily 32, which allows for more density, they could get a maximum of 80 units. I'm not suggesting that they have applied for that rezoning because they have not. I was just giving in contextual form, that's what they could get under the zoning.
Okay.
What I saw in the article was I think they're seeking in excess of over 100 units.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good evening. I live at the Slade, and I've sat here for almost an hour, and everybody that's on the commission, I would think, should be the guardians and concerns of everything they're hearing from this community. I have not heard one endorsement for the project of the Ritz-Carlton. I've not heard any endorsements for any high-rises along North Flagler. So many other people have commented on rehabilitating North Dixie, which is in dire need. There are homeless people there that we should be helping, and that should be the first priority of this community and your board. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Donna Schwartz. I live at what you call Majestic Towers, Villa Delago, and I want to refer to this slide that's up. According to the current zoning, the related property can, or related company, can build 34 units. And to quote what you said, well, they decided that's not nearly enough for what they want. They need 80 units. And my question is, why did they even buy it if it's only supposed to be 34 units? Like, they decided to buy it and, oh, we'll just steamroller over all these other people? Doesn't make any sense.
Hi, my name's Stuart Reed. I live at 1617 North Flagler. In a few of the articles that were recently printed, they always mention the quiet section of North Flagler, and that's why I think we all moved up there. If we wanted to live at the hustle and bustle, we would have moved to the Middle Bridge and been up around other high-rises, which nobody wanted, obviously. We're concerned mainly about height, setbacks, front and side setbacks, and also that if they do commit to these in a meeting, are they going to always follow through? Because I know sometimes the history with this current company has not always been that way. Thank you.
I just have another question. Is there, under the local, I'm not familiar with the local West Palm zoning commission and how it operates or requirements, but is there a disclosure law in terms of lobbyists or lawyers meeting with the planning commission on these issues? There is? Okay, thank you.
So my name's Ned Beatty. I live at 1801 North Flagler. The big tower and the Ritz-Carlton will not affect my view, luckily, because I'm out there. Even if they don't set it back, I'm in pretty good shape. It's not a personal thing. My thing is, I would call this, I've lived a lot of places, spot zoning, what they're doing at Temple Israel and what they're doing at the Ritz-Carlton, related, and I don't know who's the Temple Israel proponent. If it's not on the comprehensive plan, it's called spot zoning. And usually, places I've lived, that's discouraged. The way the waterfront's developing from Manatee Lagoon to Lake Worth Beach, the canal, is just popping up towers everywhere, randomly. And it's, you know, a few players, and I can name them. You guys know them by first name. I'm sure you do. I can name them. There's a few developers that can make things happen in this town. And like these guys say, if we're living in one of these other condo towers, we don't have a chance. So I would recommend you just zone the whole waterfront for 30 towers and stop this piece by piece by piece. Just do the whole thing, get it over with. See what the whole community has to say. That's my recommendation to you guys. So you don't have to go through this time after time after time. You know, just do it. It's where we're going anyway. It's what the developers want. It's what the planning commission wants. Just do it. That's my recommendation. And if you're gonna go, like this huge development you're talking about up there in the northern part, you gotta fix up Flagler. I mean, there's just no way. It's already got potholes and floods and all this stuff. I don't know what your traffic plan is, but it ain't gonna work what you're doing now. Okay, so you guys are planners and architects and artists, and you know how to do this. But I did a little artistic rendering here of what it looks like. Now I'm just going to show what a tall building looks
Hello, my name is Eric Bernstein. Sorry, I don't like public speaking, but I'm a first-time homeowner at Flagler Point. I don't have a view. Yeah, I'm against this. I came to Flagler Point for peace of mind. I don't like living in a downtown environment. I work with addicts and alcoholics to support their recovery, and all I want to do is come home to some peace of mind. And I don't know what's happening to Temple Israel. Can you tell me what's happening to Temple Israel? Are they like leaving or something?
I can't speak for them.
Okay. Well, Temple Israel means a lot to me, and I don't want another high-rise right there. I also don't want a high-rise next to Flagler Point. I don't know. I like Northwood. I like the small community. I'm just nervous that it's just everything's gonna change to the direction I don't want it to go to. Thank you.
My name's Bruce Millerman. I'm the treasurer of Flagler Point, and I've done some construction work in my past. And I look at the lot that 1717 that they're talking about in the meeting the other night at Slade. They talked about 1717 would be the first phase, and then they would do a second phase behind it. And if you think about the size of that lot on 1717, it's a minuscule compared to the magnitude of what you would think that they want to build out front there. And so if they make it into two phases, it's sort of ridiculous to think that they're going to put some 27-story or even 20-story building in the front and then backfill behind it on the much larger property behind it. So I'm really confused by what the whole thought process is here as far as zoning and what the requirements will be to build on that problem. The parcels that they own both, and yet they appear to want to push the building forward on a 45-foot setback or whatever they're talking about, and then leaving the back parcel at a later date. It just makes no sense to me, and I think to most of the people here it doesn't either. So, thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name's Kurt Romer. I live at 1617 Flagler. These points have all been raised, but I want to make sure that I at least throw my voice in with them. When I think about a mixed-use district should be a revitalization and a development opportunity. We're not revitalizing anything by putting these condos all along Flagler Drive. There's spots that can be developed, but as I drive down Dixie, every last lot along Dixie needs to be revitalized and redone. Why aren't we concentrating on the areas that we know are in strife, the areas that we know can use development, the areas that will bring vibrancy and life to the community? Adding more people on the waterfront isn't going to add vibrancy and life to the community. It's going to bring drudgery, it's going to bring traffic, it's going to bring accidents, it's going to bring all the things that we all moved up here for, as several people have spoken about. You know, we could have lived in Boca, we could have lived in Fort Lauderdale, we could have lived down in town and in Trump Plaza or any of the other plazas. We all moved north of Palm Beach Lakes to get away from it all. We wanted to be in a situation that was a community and a residential spot where we could enjoy life, you know, kind of easygoing pace. We're not there. We as a community, West Palm Beach is clearly not equipped in any way, shape, or form. The person articulated the traffic coming over the bridge. If you put 4,000 more units here, who the hell is going to be able to go anywhere? We can't get in a restaurant, we can't get in a store, and I sure as heck don't want to sit at a stoplight for 3 and 4 times while I'm trying to get to my office, which is at Phillips Point. It's ridiculous already, and we cannot have this many more people sitting here. The second point that was raised, you know, again, I brought it up. If I wanted the density and traffic, I would have bought in a high-rise condo. The gentleman that articulated change the mapping, go back to what the woman said about her father being on the planning commission. This is what this was supposed to be. Nobody envisioned in the forefathers, in my mind, that this was going to look like Fort Lauderdale with 30 and 40-story condos lining the water. That's not what West Palm is about. When you have friends and the family come down, they love the quaintness of it. They love the opportunity that it exists today. They're not looking for all these damn people. And the last thing I would say is this gentleman raised a conversation earlier, terminology of not penalizing density for height, and I may have paraphrased that wrong, but the point has been brought up. You're penalizing those that have been in existing developments, the people that have lived here, the people that have paid tax, the people that have supported our economy, the people that are good citizens, and you're doing that in deference to the developers' wishes and plans. As they said, they bought these properties. They've already talked to these guys, clearly, trying to think that they're going to get there. But I think all of us need to band together, because there is no way in hell we can afford to have these kind of developments going in and changing how we live.
I already asked a question. I didn't want to do a follow-up until everyone else had asked their first question again. Tim Anderson, 1551 Flagler. The question I had asked earlier about traffic, you answered. My general question on that topic was, is there a long-term plan, and is the CMUD expansion or the general development plans we're talking about tonight consistent with the long-term plan? And you said the long-term plan's on a website, and I have to confess, as a new resident, I haven't read it. I would suspect most people have not read it. Now that we know where it is, we can go read it. But the question for you at the moment here is, since the city is proposing this new development area, is it the city's contention that this development is consistent with that document we'll read that's called the long-term plan?
Let me be very clear. We are not moving forward with this based on any direction from the city commission. We're having a public meeting to get feedback. At the end of this feedback, the indication may be we may not move forward. We're not professing to throw this at people. We're bringing it up for discussion to get your input. As I said from the very outset of my presentation, we don't represent any of the developers that are interested in building in this location. We don't represent the developers that are building in the existing CMUD regulation. We're here to get your feedback. We've gotten a lot of feedback. We'll continue to have meetings and discussions. We will meet with our city commission, and they will give us direction as to how we move forward based on the input that we get at this meeting and subsequent meetings.
Okay, I appreciate that. But what we are commenting on tonight is a proposal for development, correct?
It's a proposal to extend the CMUD district south.
So the city is proposing a thing, and so my question is the thing that the city is proposing tonight on which we're commenting, is that consistent with the city's own long-term plan?
that would be part of the change that we would be making if we decide to move forward. And again, we have not assigned any zoning for this area that you're seeing.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to have meetings like this for public comment. Thank you.
Mary Alice Pappas. I've resided at Villa Delago for 21 years. And I wondered if I could ask anyone who is in favor of the CMUD South expansion zoning requirement to stand, please. If there's anyone in the room who is in favor of this.
Thank you.
Pardon me? I don't understand what you said. I haven't taken up 3 minutes yet, have I? So, in other words, no one's in favor. Thank you so much.
All right, I wanted to thank everybody for attending. Oh, I didn't see it come up.
Good evening. So my name is Kim Schmidt, and I live at the Slade. Just because the Ritz-Carlton bought that property does not mean that they have to put a Ritz-Carlton there. My proposal would be for the Ritz-Carlton to go down to the original CMUD plans where there's extra room, there's a lot of space to drive, and they're going to build a marina there. Why doesn't the Ritz-Carlton, perhaps in that area, 1717, put little coffee shops, retail there, not raise the height of whatever it is now, and just flip the script. I think that would be a great option for everybody. If there was little shops there, restaurants, coffee shops at 1717, and put the damn high rises down over at the other end where it's already proposed, and keep, or where it's already approved, and keep the proposed area out. No more, we don't need to extend it. And also, second part is, the attorney's office located there, if everyone says, oh, it's too small, or I think, they keep saying, I think it's too small to build. I think it's too small. Until I see it in writing, I think we should always attend these meetings and protest that, the building of anything. How high is it up now? 5 feet, 8 stories, 5 stories? How high is it allowed to go?
In the field, it's what they call a wedding cake. It's a little complicated, but it's based on your setbacks. You can go as high as long as.
What I saw before, it looked like four floors. It's 1 floor now. Right?
It is 1 floor right now. So I,
But it was confusing when you said it's already.
Ma'am, talk from the audience, you gotta get the mic, come on. It's recorded, ma'am, you can't, your neighbors can't hear you talking, because it's being recorded.
so just keep the current height restrictions as they are, and keep and then there's no doubt. I'm tired of hearing, I think you can't be built on, I think it can't be built on. That's all I have to say. Have a good evening, everyone.
Okay, with that, we'll wrap up this meeting. Again, this is the first of several that we'll probably have. We heard your comments loud and clear. We've taken notes. The meeting you should be able to actually see on the website as well. So if you want to go back, you can go back and pull up the entire meeting on demand. We'll post the PowerPoint that you see on our website. So we'll try to get that on as soon as possible. We thank you all for coming. We thank you for your input, and I appreciate your interest in West Palm Beach.